Well, welcome to another week's analysis behind the news. More interesting revelations about joint U.S.-Russian cooperation. This time from the Ravi Novosti news service, which Novosti is the Russian news service, that Russia and the United States to hold joint anti-terror drill. Guess where? Fort Carson, Colorado. It will be the first time that Russian military special forces, airborne special forces, will be allowed on U.S. soil. And they will participate in these joint exercises against imaginary terrorist compound. Now, in the process, they will learn to and become familiar with U.S. Special Forces weaponry, and I would imagine also the command, communications, and structure. It will help them in the future if we go to war with them. That's the kind of thing that a lot of us don't like, because if you think that communism is dead and we're all becoming very friendly now, you know, I have to say that you can go through a litany of photographs over the years where before Lenin's tomb in Moscow Square there, in front of the Kremlin, they're marching under the hammer and sickle. This is 1996. This is Putin before the hammer and sickle in 2000. This is Putin before the hammer and sickle in 2004. This is the Putin reviewing the troops under the hammer and sickle in 2006. This is Putin under the hammer and sickle in 2008. This is last year under the hammer and sickle in 2011, and also President Medvedev before he was voted out, talking before the CCCP emblem, and that is the old Cyrillic USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. So this is the sort of thing that we're dealing with. People think that Russia is no longer communist. People think that Russia has no longer got designs to rule the world. That is sadly a mistake. And what most Americans have never heard of is the fact that Putin, after 9/11, formed a joint U.S. and Russian committee to work together to fight terrorism. Now, this joint committee to fight terrorism, to cooperate between the United States and Russia, the co-chair that he had for this committee was Henry Kissinger from the United States, and Yevgeny Primakov, who was the former head of the KGB and was in charge of the terrorist network for the KGB for years. So I guess he knows a lot about terrorism, so that's why he put him in charge, right? Well, I don't think so. I think this is just that sort of thing going on again that Kissinger's been mixed up in for years. Kissinger is our national security advisor and as our head of the State Department, never was an anti-communist, no matter how much he posed to be one. You take a look at the settlement he got in Vietnam and on forever. This man is a New World Order advocate, and he has done his whole life, he has done nothing but to bring more and more communists into the structure of forming a New World Order. This latest thing, accepting the appointment of Putin as the co-chairman of this anti-terrorist task force, is just another indication of this. In addition, we see that, according again to Novosti, it's telling us that Iraq and Libya are not going to stop buying Russian weaponry simply because they've had a change in government. You see, we went over there and effected a change in government. We thought, well, okay, we've wooed them away from Russia because Saddam Hussein had all Russian tanks. Muammar Gaddafi had Russian tanks, et cetera, et cetera. But Russia's saying, no, business as usual. It's just a new regime. Somebody else will be signing the paycheck, but we will still be selling weapons to these countries. Speaking of communism, here's the cover of the New York Times yesterday. This is a shot in Madison, Wisconsin, where they're manning phones in regard to the upcoming campaign to get rid of Governor Walker. At the end of the working area here, you see a poster, and emblazoned on the poster is the communist clenched fist, and in case you don't get it, they put a red star in the middle of it. And so this is what's happening in all of this. Wait till tomorrow. I'm filming on Monday. Tomorrow is May 1st. They are trying to do everything they can to block people getting in and out of New York and San Francisco as a May Day celebration, to show the power of the unions in celebration of May Day. Obviously, they say it's against Wall Street. Well, Wall Street isn't in San Francisco, so why are they doing it there as well? To continue this love affair with the Russian communists, here is one, for instance, in the Wall Street Journal last Friday. This is a picture of Gorbachev, who's gained a lot of weight, and the Dalai Lama holding hands. Now, everybody thinks the Dalai Lama is an anti-communist because he's against the Chinese. No, he's not an anti-communist. He just doesn't want the Chinese running Tibet. He wants to run it. And that's the difference. It's not that he is anti-communist. He's very pro-communist. If you take a look at what he has been up to. He does it all in the name of peace, but then that has always been a communist tactic, is to use the term peace, which means you surrender, we rule. That's basically what it means. Very interesting article in the New York Times yesterday called Terrorist Plot, hatched by the FBI. Terrorist plots, plural, hatched by the FBI. Go online and read this article. Very informative. That a lot of these terrorist plots that we have ratcheted up our security over, and we've put more and more controls over the average American citizen, has been done because of these plots, and they were done by the FBI. The FBI could have stopped them anytime they wanted to, but it's a very interesting article. It's not something new for many of us who've watched this. What's new is that the New York Times is starting to talk about it. Last, I want to point out that the Japanese invaded a lot of islands and U.S. territory in the Pacific at the beginning of World War II. And we had to fight our way back, taking those islands one by one and bringing them back under the United States orbit. Well, the Chinese have got a better way of doing it than the Japanese. They're going into the South Pacific and buying them up. So when we go to Walmart and buy all these things made in China, they take that money and now they're buying up the governments. They're giving them loans. They're buying influence and everything in Samoa, our own territory, Tonga, and a number of others like Fiji, etc. So the Chinese have a much better way of going about these things. They discovered a long time ago that you can buy anti-communists into becoming your friends and neighbors and allies. The anti-communist businessmen in the United States, or what used to be the anti-communist businessmen, they went over and swung into this, well, we can get along with the Chinese communists because we can build factories there, we can import things cheaper, we can sell lots of stuff, we can make a lot of money. There's no need to be anti-communist anymore. We can get along with these people. So they have found through that technique of buying up American businessmen that they can buy up just about anything they want to. And so they're doing it in Latin America, they're doing it in the Caribbean, they're doing it in the South Pacific, using your money to do so. You buy those goods, they take that money and are buying influence. And what will happen with this in the future is that we will wake up one day and find out that, wait a minute, we don't have any influence at all. The Chinese have it. They've surrounded us with all of this, these goods and services. Remember the highway that was to be built up from Mexico was to be controlled by the Chinese communists too. The Trans-Texas Highway, that famous thing that didn't exist, supposedly, that all the legislators in Texas and Oklahoma were concerned about. The port there is a Chinese port. from which all of this would emanate. So what we see is a massive program by the Chinese to buy up influence around the United States while we go out on joint exercises with the Russian military on our own soil. Does this make any sense to you? Doesn't to me. Till next week, we'll see you then.